live from Manchester in the beautiful state of New Hampshire. Live free or die. Does that energize me? I got to tell you, every time I say that, I'm ready to volunteer. Uh, as I was talking about on my prior show, um, and maybe I'm being too esoteric, and maybe I'm being too academic. I don't know. Why don't you text Ted and say he is? Tell him to come back to Earth. But I do think this is important because we're going to hear a lot of this. We're going to hear a lot of this in the next week or two if this timeout goes on for a while, and if if there are substantial negotiations toward a settlement of this, and if there eventually is a settlement of it, because remember, in a settlement, in an agreement, somebody gets something. So both sides will be claiming victory. This isn't like what was required in World War. Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin required unconditional victory. They required the enemy to submit and destroy its form of government. So it would never exist again in the history of the world. Now, there was an exception to that. Not a major one, and one that was brilliantly conceived by MacArthur, who was the one who had the ability to carry it off because he was the toughest one. It was like, we have an expression, if you remember older American history, called Nixon going to China. Nixon could go to China because Nixon was so opposed to China. Nixon was such a strong anti-communist. Still, like even Humphrey, people say too cozy with the communists. Easy on China. Would have been thought of being a traitor who would have been taken advantage of. So, I mean, the reality is, we go through this, there are going to be a lot of people who question, are we giving Iran a lifeboat? Are we giving Iran another chance? Are we giving Iran not just Iran? Because we have a whole group of supporters that sunk with Iran. So the Iranian ship has gone down. It's at the bottom of the, whatever you'd like to call it, the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, the Arab Gulf, or I think what Trump would like to call it, Trump's Gulf. So whatever is going on there. China and Russia have sunk. All of the articles to the contrary are written by communist sympathizers, Islamic extremist sympathizers, and people brainwashed by the prevalent education in America academia for the last 50 years. There is no way that China or Russia has been benefited by this war. They have both been seriously hurt. Even with the fact that we haven't conducted this war like straight out. We haven't conducted it like, let's go at them and just destroy them. But even the hit them hard, stop, hit them hard, stop, hit them hard, stop, has done tremendous damage to Russia. of Rome, or they compare it to the rise and fall of Great Britain. Those are the two most useful analogies they use. We bear no resemblance to Rome or to Great Britain. Our strengths and weaknesses, our morality and lack thereof, is based on totally different things. So if we're going to rise and we're going to fall, it's going to be in a different way than a world dominating dictatorship, monarchy, all various forms of a totalitarian government imposed on the world, albeit with a little more sense than trying to act that way all the time, with an understanding of how to win people along, much greater than nations like that normally have, much greater than even Russia had. The Soviet Union antagonized completely. China finds it impossible to do that. But the genius of Rome is not that they were good people. They weren't. They were horribly immoral people. They were extraordinarily diplomatic and extraordinarily practical. Like rather than dominate the way Hitler did with the SS, making sure anybody in Poland that disagreed was shot. What they did, you were carried at a stick. They offered you Roman citizenship. And you real Roman citizenship, not bullshit Nazis did. And numerous times because he was a Roman citizen. They couldn't crucify him because he was a Roman citizen. So when we analyze all of this, I really want you to avoid all of the anti-American. America's going to fall. America's going to fall. It's not going to fall, and I still don't know how it's going to come out. Feeling that this agreement is more solid. I do have a feeling it's going to go further. I would still, and I am very much against all these people who bet on these things I don't even know the name of. But if you are betting on either one here, you should lose your money. So up until what time did Trump do the? I mean, like in a basketball game, you know, at 3:01 of the third quarter, they asked for a timeout. Who do we know when?
Sorry, yeah,
he did it this morning, right? Our time, this morning, our time.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. We apologize. We've just been dealing with a lot of technical
difficulties. I know.
Tonight.
We've had technical difficulties both on the first part of the show, the Rouhani show on
Lindell TV.
On Lindell TV, and then less so, but some here. Yeah. I don't get monitor there. But you might. And I'd have thought I was trying to avoid you and show you my bad profile. I don't know bad profile.
Some comments not would
tough. Tonight, was unlike while the a measured attack. So I would say up until yesterday, more like of Moscow, yeah, of what we same break to Hezbollah, because you're not going to convince Israel to do that. Yeah, Jews Hezbollah has killed. You have no Israel, except it is exceeded by the devastation that it's caused for the beautiful country of Lebanon and for the Christians in Lebanon, where they have almost come close. Or not, yes, is there such a thing as a semi-genocide or a three-quarters genocide? If there is, that's what they did. So, the president called off the attacks. That did not. But they were fighting right up until no. And in fact, there even is some fighting involving us with missiles, drones, and maritime attack going on. Between Israel and Hezbollah and is I mean, doing, which is to get rid of Hezbollah. I do believe that Israel has, I don't know for sure. I have gotten the agreement with the president to tell Iran to go to hell, and Hezbollah is on its own, because there ain't going to be no more Hezbollah. I'm sorry, you're just not going to have that left arm anymore. It's going to be denied to you, because they've done too much damage to Lebanon and to Israel. So despite ceasefire efforts, exchanges involving Hezbollah-linked forces in Israel have continued unabated. And the balance of the damage has always been ridiculously anti-Hezbollah. The U.S. began the day by launching a second day of strikes. They hit radar systems, they hit surveillance networks, they hit communications facilities, they hit air defenses, including a site within 50 to 70 miles of Tehran and Bandar Abbas. And then, reportedly, although Iran attempted to retaliate, once again trying to hit Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan, and failing, although there was some damage and injuries in Bahrain this time. At some point, as far as we know, there was a call directly to the president asking, or one might say pleading, for an end of cessation of the terrorism and a ceasefire, And the condition was extricated that don't give us this Hezbollah bullshit anymore. They're not part of the ceasefire. Where are they at the table? I mean, even from the beginning, this has been a phony European joke because they buy every bit of bullshit that's put out. You and I have a ceasefire. That doesn't mean your friend gets the ceasefire who's shooting at me or my friend. Neither Hezbollah nor Israel was at the table. So how the heck can they be affected by the ceasefire? Well, now it's clear they are not. And the third wave attack, that was already planned and ready to go. And actually, I think you'll over the next day or so, you're going to hear about what it was because it was ready to go, which means it was all plotted and it exists somewhere. Someone has it. We'll find out what it was.
Right.
And it was canceled. So here's the sequence. U.S. and Israel attacked Iran, and Iran aligned targets, meaning, boom, Hezbollah. There were more American strikes. Iranians attempted to retaliate against Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. The most they were able to do is injure a couple civilians. And the U.S. were ready for a second attack like the one of the last 36 hours, which apparently really hurt. And Lebanon wanted no, Iran wanted no part of that. So the U.S. and Israel strikes on military infrastructure and Iranian aligned forces have done the most damage done since the active war has been over. The fighting in Lebanon is massively pro-Israel. Every day of fighting, the closer they get to eliminating Hezbollah. And they have pretty much won over, I'm talking about Israel, most of the government of Lebanon. So we'll have to see how long this lasts. I do feel it's going to last a little longer. It's going to last a little longer than we've seen before. And I do think there's going to be a real understanding that Iran can't get away with it by saying, "Oh, we'll agree, but our proxies will still continue."
What do you think of that?
I think I am, for the first time, getting a feeling, not a strong one, not one that I'm willing to say absolutely for sure. I think this is a better based effort, more supported on their side than we've had before, because they got a taste of being back in what they were in for several weeks in fighting America and Israel. They got a real taste of it, because up until then, the attacks that we did were border, minor. As one reporter, whoever it is, at least gets the award for describing it correctly. Up until then, they were not Israel, but America's attacks and responses were measured. So were Iran's attacks, particularly when they were geared toward American air bases in Israel. They didn't do as they had done during the active part of the war, attempts at massive attacks on Israel. So this is a question of something I don't think we can measure really well, which is who's in charge inside the reign of terror. And I don't think we know. I don't think Mossad knows. I don't think CIA knows. I'm not even sure our friends in MEK know. I think this is an area where they've done a very, very good job of sealing off what has been a country that's been pretty well penetrated by the Mossad, by the MEK, by PMOI. You think about those drone attacks. Those drone attacks only occur because there's been tremendous penetration. Or you think about all the nuclear scientists killed. That only happens because of tremendous penetration.
Right.
You think of all those bombing raids with just a single apartment in out. That's because of tremendous penetration.
Right.
Well, let's go over to the war, which has become much more active as we concentrate on the war in the Middle East, and that's of Vladimir Putin's completely unjustifiable attack on Ukraine. Now, there are too many people in our country that don't think clearly. So we have a lot of people not really favoring Ukraine, whatever that means, because Ukraine is a crooked country, or not favoring Ukraine because Ukraine, the prevailing governments of Ukraine, double-crossed to a very, very large extent Trump.
Right.
Or that for the last Obama on served as an ally of purely the Democrat Party. And the corruption, they would describe to me by a very, very honest and honorable Ukrainian promise. You can elect to believe this or not, but I lie, as I've proven. I would describe to me as a cash cow for the Democrat Party. And I was told one of the reasons they want to really open up, if you ever really open up, they're going to be an awful lot of people in Washington who are going to end up going to jail. And they said there'll be mostly Democrats, but you got a couple of Republicans too. I have guesses. I don't have proof, so I keep my mouth shut. But I do know that Ukraine, at the highest level, and the Democratic Party are among the biggest crooks in the history of the world. And they have stolen that country blind. Now, I'm not like a liberal jerk, idiot, former hippie whose mind was destroyed by drugs or whatever. I make a distinction between the crooked bureaucracy, the crooked oligarchs, the crooked leadership of Ukraine and the beautiful people of Ukraine. And I really mean beautiful people. These are extraordinarily religious and extraordinarily cultured people. Even the ones who aren't that well educated have a real civilization. And they're good people. Hey, by the way, so could the Russians, if they'd be left alone, or if they had been left alone for any part of about 700 centuries.
Right.
But their essential instincts, they're just wonderful people. And they have tried so hard to have a decent government with one interlude in the last, since they've been freed from communism. But that one interlude alone gives them a chance. It doesn't have to be Zelensky and no election for 3 years. And he convinces people, well, you can't have an election because there's a war. That's exactly when you have to have an election, but in any event. And he convinces people that he's not stealing money, even though he was put in office by the biggest thief there. And he tries to convince people that he has the best interest of Ukraine at mind. If he did, all the money that went to Ukraine would have been put in the war, and they'd be a lot more further advanced than they are. One thing you got to understand about the Ukrainian oligarchs, in which you would include Zelensky, is they somehow are, in fact, not all, somehow are in fact patriots. They themselves love Ukraine, hate what Russia's done to it. So you'd say, okay, that's great. But they still steal the country blind. Ask me to explain it. I don't know. Maybe I should have gone on to be a priest or a psychiatrist to figure that out. I can't. I know more. I know many of them, both from the point of view of socially, and I know many of them from investigating. It is the strangest thing. And if you ever thought that criminals were uncomplicated, you're just wrong. There's one who created Zelensky, who created the Privat Bank. The Privat Bank was the second richest legitimate bank in Ukraine. One of the great banks of Europe. That was the beautiful bank downstairs. Either upstairs or in an office across the street, depending on what they were doing. Going back 15 years, there were more computers than you ever would have saw at that time in any one group of rooms. Each of those computers, by and large, stood for a phony company or a phony bank account. And if I wanted to if I wanted to take a bribe in Ukraine for $40 million, and I wanted it delivered to me in the Bahamas, let's say. Before it got to me in the Bahamas, you wouldn't know what the hell it was. I mean, it may have started off. Work. It might have been a loan. Might have been a rebate on taxes. By the time you went through it, you couldn't figure out what the hell it was. And then they would subdivide it into different amounts of money. And you would finally get it. It could have gone through anywhere. Be done. The major ones were some of say, boy, you were good. And the guy who did that developed the television station and radio station. And they developed a show, a comedy, about how terrible it was to be the prime minister of Ukraine, because he actually has come up with something. He may have watched The Godfather, where he has to wet his beak on every transaction. I want to establish myself in Ukraine, cheaper there. I got to pay off, right? So I got to pay off whoever is the mayor of the town or the whatever place I'm going. Maybe a couple of the local politicians, some of the local unions. All of a sudden, somebody from Big Beak's office would show up, and he'd say, how much is involved in this? Well, we're not doing anything. We don't. You think we take bribe? Blah, 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 blah. Of course, they would say, stop the bullshit. I know exactly what you're doing. So you're either going to show me the books, and we're going to see how much the bribe was, or I'm going to make up the bribe and take whatever it was, 10% of it, 20% of it. So basically, except for the guys that he fooled. He was getting percent of all the bribery money. So when I went there, I worked there and did security in Kharkiv and in Kyiv. My friends, including friends on the Democrat side and the Republican side, we had dinner. And they told me how bad Poroshenko had been. I had supported him, buying into the thought that Poroshenko was too rich to be corrupt. He had the biggest chocolate company in Eastern Europe. And I said, well, why would he take money? The guy's already rich as you. He said, well, it had nothing to do with money. I said, well, he's taking money. Yeah, but that's not. He wanted to be the biggest and most important oligarch in Ukraine. And believe it or not, when you read their papers and when you read the good ones and the bad ones, they rank them. It's like Ted and his football, his NCAA football rankings. Notre Dame is one, Ohio State's one, this one's one, that one's one. All of a sudden, Poroshenko was like 5. He wanted to be 1. That was the big thing in his life. On the other hand, he loved Ukraine. He fought for Ukraine. He put his life at risk for Ukraine. So did the guy who was running doing the money laundering, who made Zelensky. He went and fought for his town against Russia, almost got killed. That's not always the profile. Some of them are like sneaky little bums, like the guy who bribed the Bidens. He just stole money, but he might have been a patriot too. I don't know, but he ended up giving the Bidens bare minimum $20 million, and your guess is as good as mine, because the FBI ignored the woman who had the codes for the offshore banking. Oh, by the way, they could still get it if they wanted to. If it's still there, I doubt it. So that's where we are on Ukraine. So I think it's probably time to take a short break, and we will be right back as soon as we perform our duties as good and loyal Catholics.
That we are.
Did Dr. Maria leave?
We're still on the air, Mayor.
Oh, well, if we're still on the air, I should make some faces or something. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org. Is Dr. Maria still? Oh,
We're still on the air, Mayor. So
that's okay. I can ask if Dr. Maria is still there. She's
just
president
let
of
me
the
know
company.
that you don't see it, but you are.
I mean, she's the top gun.
So we're on the air. If you want to keep talking, want me to take us to commercial as soon as I can.
Want me to talk some more? I could talk about last night's Knick game, which I'm dying to. Do you guys want to spend a little time analyzing last night's Knick game, or is that going to bore most of you? I have no way of knowing. If there was some way in which we could have like total intercommunication, that would be so much better for you and me. Like right now, you could just communicate and say, "We don't want to hear about the Knicks. It's just you because you're a New Yorker." Or the comeback, which was the greatest in the history of the NBA playoffs, is worth it to us from the point of view of basketball fans or just pure heroics. Am I making that up? I don't think so. A lot of people ask me about it. And, it's funny. Everybody people say, "Are you a Knicks fan?" There's nobody in New York that's not a Knicks fan. Can't you see it? Can't you see when you look at it? I mean, everybody's a Knicks fan. So, and baseball is just historically split. It's not just the Yankees and the Mets. I mean, everybody's father, grandfather, great grandfather was split in New York. Because we had three teams. We had three great teams, all of which have truly great championship history. The Dodgers, the Giants, and the Yankees, two in the National League, one in the American League, produced probably together, the three of them, more Hall of Famers than any three teams in the history of baseball. But New Yorkers learn that there are choices. You don't have to be a Yankee fan. Families usually follow what their family wants. But the interesting thing is it shows you rebellion against daddy. So you could have somebody that grows up in a Yankee family and the son wants to show his independence. He's a Met fan. Or they'll go pick a team like Philadelphia or who knows where. Football, it's been the Giants and the Jets for so long. And the Giants really had the whole city until the Jets came along. And Joe Namath made an immediate cut into that. And the Giants still dominate in terms of the numbers. But the Jets have a very strong following. So there's, again, a situation of split loyalties. Hockey is the Rangers. Sorry, but nobody else has really penetrated. Even with the championships, considerably more won by the Devils and the Islanders. But if you're a New Yorker, the Rangers may in fact have the most loyal fans. The Rangers didn't have Stanley Cup for 50 plus years until I was the mayor. And they would sell out all the time. And their parade, I don't know where they all came from, but their parade was as big as a Yankee parade, a astronaut parade. There's a great loyalty to the Rangers among the people who like hockey. Now, hockey isn't a universal sport in New York. Now we get to basketball. Basketball is a universal sport in New York. Everybody in New York City plays basketball, including this.
Yeah.
I got a hell of a hook shot.
I got to see it, man.
You don't want to try it.
I want to see it.
I'll get you to foul me, too.
Yeah.
I'll also foul you and foul out of a game because I never saw the distinction between football and basketball. Just like those referees don't. Wow. But in any event, I can play basketball. I'm not great. As a much better baseball player, but Andrew, what the first thing I did when I became mayor, as soon as I got Gracie Mansion, I called somebody and I said, called the Parks Department. I said, is it okay? They got a little thing over there on the side. I want to put a basketball court in there, 2 baskets for my son and I. And anybody else who wants to come play basketball with us. And I hid it away so you couldn't take pictures of me, missing 5 3-point shots in a row. And Andrew became quite a good basketball player, although eventually he had to make a choice for football and then for golf. But Andrew was a better all-around athlete than I was. I was really just good at one sport, baseball.
You were good at football, I bet.
I could play anything. I was good at football. I was good at touch football. I mean, I played with Roger Ailes and Rush Limbaugh, and my friends like Peter Powers and Elliot Cougar. And we used to play every Sunday when I was out of office in the wintertime. We'd watch football together. We'd go up to Westchester. But Elliot had a home there. Roger had a home there. And we would play touch football before or after the game. Somebody getting injured every time.
That would have been.
So have we gotten to our ads yet?
We are ready for the ads. Now we can play.
Okay.
Yeah.
People thought they.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
And we're back.
Well, Rudy is looking through his bag here to try to find what he just found. I got it. See?
Right here.
Now, you're going to see, you can take this away. Take it away. You're going to see how we know what we're doing. Put this in, Ted. Give it a little touch like that. Put that in. Let me do this. Hold on. See if it's, it's got a blue.
It's on?
Yep. I'm going to even give you one, Ted. Watch this. Can you hear me? Take this. Come on. I can throw it. Make sure you press it down. Oh, yeah. I should be talking right now. Can you hear me now? Can all of our... I should tell you, I was going for my Rode microphone, which is a high quality microphone, but I am now working with a $32 microphone right now. Can you hear me now? I hear me. Can you hear me now?
Very good audio. Better audio now, yeah.
Oh, the audio is a lot better. Yeah, this is the best of the budget brands. You can get it on Amazon, but if you go on like Safari or one of the websites and you put in the best wireless microphone for iPhone. So they'll probably give you a Rode, which is this one here. I don't know why I'm doing advertisements for them, but I am. They'll give you a Rode. This one here, however, the one that works with the iPhone I have upstairs. This is one that would work with a camera. See, connect this to the camera, and then you have this as the microphone. Now, and they have a version of this for the iPhone, and it is as good as a professional microphone. This would be challenged by DJI, which is a very fine product. But I found out after investing in several DJI products that they come from Red China. So since then, I haven't bought it, and I don't use their product. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, or I'm being overly whatever, Right now, I'm engaged in trying to get the exact kind of American flag that I want for the 4th of July celebration. I can't find. I just don't want a Chinese-made flag for a 4th of July celebration. And I'm all over the internet, and I think I'm going to have to go to like Valley Forge or one of those places. But many of them, so far on the internet, they don't have exactly what I want. But okay, but if I have to get a Chinese version, I won't get one. We'll do something else.
We're getting one.
What?
We're getting them.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna pay those red bastards for an American flag. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Of course not.
But in any event, DJI is the equivalent of Rode. Depending on who you read, because I do this all the time, I do the best of. Rode and DJI, I would say they're matched. I would say they're matched for reviews and for quality from my point of view. And I'm not the most discerning, although I should be. I use it more than most. I would say
We're pretty discerning, I'd say.
yeah, I don't think there's a difference. I think Rode is just as good. And I think Rode also has more useful products than DJI.
Right.
DJI makes a gimbal, which is not top of the line. They do make a terrific. They make terrific action cameras, if that's what you're into. Although you can go to Go Hero, which is an American product, which quite frankly, probably loses a little in the comparisons in terms of quality, but probably gains a lot in terms of the comparisons for a pure action camera. Plus, you can do your entire podcast or blog off it, just like you can with an iPhone. You can just plug it right in, and you don't need with the Go Hero, you don't need all the extras. It's not going to come out great. It's not going to come out beautiful. It's not going to look as good as what you're seeing here. But if you're not an aficionado, not going to make a difference. Not going to make a difference to me. So
it's the content.
I don't know. This wasn't meant to be like a YouTube analysis of the various things that are available. But now we just switched. See if they can tell the difference. This is a very high quality Lumix. It's the one that probably is the most often, and when I say most often, probably 30% of the time, and then everybody else is 18, 15, whatever. This is probably the most often used high level blogging, videoing. It's actually been used for movies. Action, particularly movies. It's the Lumix 5, which is made by Lumix Panasonic, and it has a very high quality lens, and it's a mirrorless camera. And I think if you look at it, I'm looking at the details of it myself right now. I used to be an amateur photographer. It's a fabulous camera, but it's quite expensive.
Right.
Now,
and the lighting's different.
Of course, an iPhone is quite expensive, but it does many other things. And you're seeing this with Ted's great ability to light this properly. So if you want to use this camera and you want it to be better than the iPhone, you have to know how to use lighting, which is not hard. We could teach it to you. I mean, it's learning how to do that. And there's a light. You don't know it, but there's a light in the back. That helps a lot. The lights are positioned exactly right. The one on the left here is just totally up. Maybe you can show it to them later.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to the. I can't see it as well because I can't look at the monitor. Well, I'll take a quick look at it. How much different is that? I think you can tell it's not quite, because it's a different shot. It's more of a long.
Yeah, a lot going on.
But you also get to see. I think it's interesting because you get to see our layout and it all starts to look more human.
Right.
But I don't know, unless you're like the head of productions for Hollywood, you see much of a difference.
This is a really good shot, and
And we are improving the sound, the natural sound, with this mix and match audio, which costs all of $38. This is $38 charge for this. The Rode microphone, which I don't have the one for the iPhone, but it looks something like this. The Rode version is more like $230, and it's better. There's no doubt it's better. If I were going to sing, if I were going to go to a church and record choral music, or go with the Rode. But if I'm just doing this, the experts know the difference. So what do you think? You're looking at that, right? Now let's go switch back right away. And you look, and now you're looking at a side view of me on the iPhone 17.
Yeah.
We should switch this over to, we should switch this over to YouTube for like a demonstration video. I look at a lot of them in order to buy our equipment. Ted should tell you I'm very involved. I'm not one of these dopes. I always have to know what I'm doing. It's very important. And I recommend that to you. It's how you don't get fleeced too. It's like people who invest, right? I always say, if you're investing in something and you're going to make a lot of money, explain it to me. And when the guy can't explain it to me, I say, please don't do it. Please don't do it. You got to understand it. If you don't understand it, you're probably smart enough to understand most things that are honest. There's probably something wrong with it. Or it's so damn sophisticated, invest a little more time in it and understand it. But don't put your money into it until you understand it. So the Post has the headline saying, inflation rockets past 4% in May. So what? More jobs than ever before by 2 to 1. Economy is growing. The market's setting a record. We'll take care of inflation. Just get the damn war over. So the New York Times, what the New York Times has become. The New York Times on Wednesday shockingly downplayed accusations leveled against Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner by his ex-girlfriends as not like classic abuse allegations. She said they scared the living daylights out of her, as the other one did. She had a long, long time recovering from it, if she has. He would inflict small amounts of pain on her all the time. He never beat the hell out of her, but he would scratch her and pinch her and demean her and tell her stories about rape. He locked her in a room, threw her out of a car.
Wow.
Not like classic abuse allegations. Jodi Kantor, who won a Pulitzer Prize for lying about Donald Trump. Jodi Kantor, who won a Pulitzer Prize for her reporting on Harvey Weinstein's sexual abuse, suggested They're not about a boss and a young female employee being subject to advances in the content abuse. You lock her in the car. You can lock her in the bathroom. You can all the okay, putting Judy or for her sexual abuse allegation occurs if the rape. You're allowed to rape your girlfriend. What in the name of our Lord has happened? I spent too much time on the New York Times. It's got to go away some point. America's just going to reject it. It's been such an embarrassment to this country. Now, here's the dangerous thing, and Ted is here. Stephen had to go home for a while. And he did some very good work for us, didn't he? So let's say thank you. Let's say thank you, Stephen. And we're hoping he comes back soon. But I think they both would agree with this article, which I think it's in the Journal or maybe in a main paper. I don't know. First of all, the turnout for Platinum was very heavy. It was one of the higher turnouts in the primary. 222,600 Mainers voted, up 37% from the 162,600 who turned out to cast their ballots in the 2020 primary, which was a presidential election year. So they had a 37% boost in turnout. And Plattner was the reason for it, because Collins got the same vote basically she got last time. And it didn't show any uncomfortable feeling with her, nor any enthusiasm for it. Despite Plattner's scandal, the Republican National Senatorial Committee warned that Plattner is very formidable in a general election. Harris won the state by 7 points in the 2027 presidential race. Collins won the race by 8 points the last time she ran, although she ran behind in the polls right before the election. We will get you the exact number. I thought it was 8% turned into 8%, which is a hell of a swing. It's an 18-point swing between the poll and the election. But in any event, she defied the polls then. She is now somewhere, she was normally about 8 points behind. When everything broke, she remained at 8 points behind. It then went down to 2 points, and now it's back to 6 for Plattner. Now, this could be the enthusiasm of his having won. We'll see. The allegations are serious. There is a tendency from the small sample that we have of people to rationalize and to focus instead those who are not inclined to be Republican voters in particular, but to focus instead on their dislike of Trump or their dislike of Collins. And therefore, some go so far as to say, because he's a viable candidate, they made up these allegations against him. This is what you can expect. Others are willing to swallow them. And those are the ones that I find stranger, don't you, Ted? The ones who say, yeah, those could be true, but I don't know, Trump and Collins are worse. What exactly did Trump and Collins do that's worse than that?
You really got to wonder.
And now, and we have Trump now for president for what exactly has he done to hurt you? We're at war in in Iran. Okay, your gasoline is a little more expensive, still a lot less expensive than under Biden. And we are, God willing, extricating ourselves from a nuclear power that could destroy us. Now, you don't have to worry about that, and most Americans domestically don't. But if we have a president that doesn't, that's a president who should be thrown into hell. Plus, look what he's done about the Great Invasion. He's thrown out 3 million of disproportionate number of murderers, rapists. Yeah. And not ones who are consensual dates, like the New York Times thinks are okay. Most of these women who were raped, like Lake and Riley, were not going on a date with the animal. Ukraine. I tell you, the Ukrainians are making a real shot back. They are really making a shot back. Ukraine has recaptured more than 230 square miles this year alone. And that momentum is continuing. This has been going on for 4 years. This is longer than Russia's war against Germany. They've retaken several strips along the 800-mile front. And that was in the first 5 months of 2026. And then 1/6 more in last month's offensive. May's total gains were 38 square miles. These are the biggest losses Russia has undertaken since they established their position 2.5 years ago. Ukrainian forces struck more than 88,000 Russian military targets in May. That's a lot of military targets, girls and boys. They killed or injured more than 30,000 Russian soldiers. They inflicted well over $1 billion in damage with their incursions into Moscow. And the most intense fighting is in Donetsk. And Donetsk is the place where Russia wants to recapture. Oh, no, they don't want to recapture. Russia wants to take territory they haven't been able to capture in 4 years of this war and the last war. Now, why do they want that territory? They want that territory for 2 reasons. And if you want the show, if you watch the show, excuse me if I'm repeating, but a lot of people just kind of come in, and I would like them to know this because nobody else points this out. Russia wants this territory, not just because it wants territory. First of all, it wants this territory because it can't win it on the battlefield. It can't win it because it's so well defended. If it's so well defended, if Russia, after the peace takes place, comes to the notion they're going to break the peace, as they have for hundreds of years against Ukraine, then this stands as a bulwark against their being able to do a physical invasion. This protects the easiest route to Kyiv. Whereas every other way they would get to Kyiv, there's a good chance the Ukrainians, because of the topography, would be able to wipe the hell out of the Russian army, which is probably one of the clumsiest armies in the world. Boy, and that has been revealed, hasn't it? I mean, wow. The King Putin, without any clothes on, sure looks like he's got a little tiny one, huh? Boy, Vladimir, you don't scare anybody except the people you torture, you little bastard. Now, you want some really good news? I'm not going to hope this gets done until it gets done. But they're starting to isolate Crimea. Crimea is connected to the mainland of Ukraine or Russia, depending on what you want to call it. It's an island connected by 3 bridges. You want to isolate Crimea, you destroy all 3 bridges. Now you can't militarily reinforce it. Well, one of those bridges got destroyed the other day. The 2 others right now have more Ukrainian soldiers than Russian soldiers there. Crimea is suffering from massive lack of water and possibly energy. We're not sure about that. And there's a lot of talk about maybe it'd be better for them if they were under Ukraine again. If you cut off those bridges, you've taken away from Putin his real rationale, his fallback rationale for this war. I do believe when he invaded Ukraine, particularly with the United States scared and saying no ground, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. I don't want to kill them. Boots on the ground. I don't want any boots on the ground. Or the auto pen was saying that. We don't know. When the cowards and the traitors who ran the United States gave him all the signals in the world to invade Ukraine, including saying he can make a small one. When he invaded, I don't know. I want to get out of my vocabulary. Would you like to bet? I'm very concerned about all this betting that goes on. But what do you think he thought the chances were that he'd be able to overtake this little tiny country with the United States scared out of its mind with Biden and Sullivan and all these guys who had sold out to Iran? I would say he and the rest of Europe were scared out of their minds. He can take the whole damn thing. In fact, I will tell you, I was afraid. I would, if push came to shove, have said no. It could be a lot tougher than you think. But probably would have rated it at about 30%. About a 30% chance. I'm not sure if we go back and we can find some contemporaneous analysis. I did do some.
Okay, 30%. That's high.
But I think and maybe it also is because I wanted to be positive. I think my basic analysis was he was not going to take most of Ukraine. I think, but I don't remember that well. And I do remember. How do you describe this? So sometimes you say to yourself, like when we went into Kuwait to get Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, I had no doubt we were going to do it. If we did it in 2 weeks or 10 weeks, we were going to do it. No doubt, 0 doubt. When they went into Ukraine, I said, this is going to be a lot harder than that animal thinks it is. Because I know these people. And I'll tell you, I was probably concentrating, because you always concentrate on what you know best, on Kharkiv. And I was concentrating on Kharkiv because I worked there and I knew the people. And I really didn't think they could ultimately overcome him. But I thought, wow, they're going to give him the biggest fight of his life. You look on the map, they're a free territory now. He's destroyed a third of the damn city. The beautiful city. It's a tragedy what he did to them. But even his minimum objective, which was the land bridge to Crimea, he's missing probably about a third of that. And I'm not just talking about the parts of Donetsk and Zaporizhia that he didn't take. In each case, he's missing about 20 to 30% of those, what they call in Ukraine, oblasts. He wanted Kharkiv. He wanted Sumy. He wanted to come around the north so that he could um, later, as he was able to put things together, make a shot at Kiev. And remember, at the beginning of the war, he did make a shot at Kiev. It failed. They fought him off, and they fought him off entirely in the east. If you look at a map, and here's one. I don't know how well you can see it. Can they see it if I do it that way? You can see that most of Ukraine is under the control of Ukraine. That's an achievement, and it's also an achievement for for Europe, because Europe started giving him stuff before Biden did. I don't know, and maybe we'll never know what Biden's objective here was. He supported Ukraine, but he didn't support Ukraine. It's always been questionable as to how much Trump supports Ukraine, more so than Biden. Except Trump has given him a lot more armaments. So, I mean, it's really, this is one of the things that only is going to get resolved as we unwind the corruption of the Obama, Biden era, Hillary Clinton era, and all the things they tried to, and how they screwed up America trying to screw up Donald Trump. Ukraine's in the middle of that, as I know better than anybody. But it is enormously exciting to me. It's also very exciting to see that the Times and elsewhere don't.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes.
Like 2 of the 3 bridges have been taken out. But when I went over the material that I had earlier today, it was only two of the bridges that were taken out. But the most important one, I think, has been harmed. Not completely taken out, but harmed. Is there any way to focus on this, Ted? I don't have the computer hooked up right now. You see the little red splotch down here? The little red here. Right there. That's Crimea. So it's hard to see, but up here is all separated by water. There are 3 bridges that allow you to go from 2 places that are now occupied Ukraine, technically Russia or not, and 1 Ukraine. 3 bridges allow you to go into Ukraine. One of those Russian bridges is now down. If the second one goes down, Russia ain't going to be able to get in there. And they're thinking of taking the Ukrainian bridge down should Russia accomplish taking the area they don't have. That would give them more control over Crimea. This was all one of the very big battles of this war, the battle for Kherson, which Russia won, but after considerable fighting, because the Ukrainians knew how important it was to control Kherson, because it helped to control the most desirable, in some ways, the most desirable part of Ukraine. Now, if we're talking about economically viable, if we're talking about, Ukraine used to be called the breadbasket of Europe because its land is so fertile. and able to, and in large parts of that area of Europe, including in Russia, it's not a great deal of land. It's very rocky. It's very mountainous. It's grazing land at best, and then it even stops being that. So Russia depended on Ukraine for food. And what nobody ever thought of, and why God distributed it this way, only God knows, but their distribution of rare earth, rare minerals, oil, gas, is disproportionate to its size. And this is why it's so important to Russia, including the ethnic and historical and emotional and all of the other stuff, which I don't discount, actually. I don't discount that. I think all that plays into this. Although I think the Russians have destroyed a case in which they could have possibly won the loyalties of the Ukrainian people. When I first went to Ukraine, and they had already done some horrible things that hurt them. When I first went there, it was, I think this is a fair description. I don't know if I still have the briefing paper. I wish I do, because it was really, really dramatic. I may have the numbers a little bit off, but I think it's something like this. And this is based on the few elections that had taken place after they extricated themselves from the Soviet Union and became theoretically a free country. About 46 to 48% of the people were favorable to Russia. I want you to pay attention to the word that I used, favorable. 46 to 48% of the people were favorable to a independent, free, nationalistic Ukraine with its own language and its own traditions. 46, that could grow to 48. Right? So that leaves, right, somewhere between 4 and 8%, maybe 10, undecided. And when they had votes before the two victors in 2004-05, it would break down either way. I think Kuchma, who was the notorious president of Ukraine, was pro-Russian. Now, Kuchma had a very bad reputation, alleged to have beheaded a reporter, alleged to have killed a lot of his opponents and to have stolen enormous amounts of money. But that did not, it turns out, make him unusual. The key election was in 04-05. And that was between the two victors whose names are so similar, it got really complicated, Yeroshenko and Yushchenko. One of them very pro-Russian and the other very pro-Western. In a disputed election that the international monitors concluded was crooked, the pro-Russian candidate won by about 3 or 4% of the vote. During the election, the pro-Western candidate, Yushchenko, turns up about 3 weeks before the election, dying from poisoning. Gee, I wonder who did that. I have a CIA briefing, non-classified, CIA briefing when I was going to Ukraine about 5 months earlier, telling me that the only person that you can trust in Ukraine is that gentleman, Viktor Yushchenko, who Putin attempted to poison. And he will actually have a pretty good chance of delivering Ukraine into the arms of Western democracy and capitalism and everything, because he was a great economist. And here was the proviso at the end. If Putin doesn't kill him, exactly what it said. If Putin doesn't kill him, I go there, I visit with him, we become very friendly, our wives become friendly. I go back to the United States, I don't know how many months, 3-4 months later, get up in the morning and they just attempted to poison him and kill him. Now, he made it through. The election came out with everyone believing he had won and everyone believing he had been cheated. Unfortunately, they didn't believe that the man had been cheated in 2020. But it was okay to believe it then. And it was true. He was cheated. And under international supervision, after he recovered, pockmarked face, the man was extraordinarily, in a very dignified way, good-looking man, a great banker and economist, enormously engaging man. We spent hours talking about history. He was, believe it or not, he was an expert on Middle Ages armament. He had an armamentarium. Came from a wealthy family, but very pro-Western, very much believing that Ukraine's future is with the West, which is why Putin tried to kill him. Failed, but destroyed him. He lost the first election, but was clearly cheated. I think it was the Carter-Baker Commission that concluded that. They held a second election and he clearly won, and he became president of the Ukraine. Many people say the only honest president of Ukraine so far. Honest. And I consider myself his friend to this day. But I have to tell you, honest, but significantly weakened and undercut by everyone around him, so that his administration was not successful in accomplishing what it would have accomplished had they not attacked him the way they did and destroyed him and destroyed a lot of his abilities, which have to some extent now come back, but now it's years later. That led to Yeroshenko winning the next election, who was in Putin's pocket, and then the rest is history. So what's going to happen here during the summer? So here are the predictions, including an article saying that an article saying that Putin is laying in wait for the winter. And he's not going to do much during the summer. He's going to wait for the winter as he did last time. He's going to wait for a tremendous cold, because they expect a very cold winter. So much for global warming. They're going to expect an extraordinarily, historically cold winter. They will continue to build up their fingers on the right buttons without a great deal of fanfare, so that they can cut off as much electricity and heat as possible. And then they'll do major advances during the winter. However, Ukraine, seeming to anticipate that, is very quietly but very effectively involved in really pushing Russia right now. They've gained more land back than any time ever. They've made some critical advances in Donetsk, where they're going to get a real hit, because that's the place he really wants. And this isolation of Crimea would be a game changer if they could do it. The other thing that would be a game changer, and I have no idea if they have plans for this, is to put a land bridge in the middle of the land bridge. Let me just give you an example, just complete guesswork, okay? So I don't know if they can see this, Ted. Can they? Can you get up close enough to see this? Can you do something with it? Can you take it and then I can have a piece of it and I can tell them? All I want to show them is if you pick any place there along that pink area of what is called the land bridge to Crimea, and you split it in half the way Israel did in Gaza, forget it, babes. The land bridge is gone. And the whole war is for nothing because he didn't take Ukraine. And what he wanted was the land bridge to Crimea. You want something extra, then cut off Crimea. That's what I would aim for during the summer. And then reinforce it as much as you can. And I try to cut off the land bridge as close to Russia as possible. Now, that could be hard because they're probably the strongest as close to Russia as possible. But it's also the most effective. And if I had my map, but because of all that gone wrong, I can't really quite show you. But we'll have to. Oh, good. And but then can you see me mark it up? No. Well, then let me mark it up and give it to you. I'm going to make a couple of black marks on it, okay? And I'm going to number them. 1, 2. Now, show them that. These are the places where, if I were advising the Ukrainian government, I would say, is there any way you can do a Moses here? Part the Red Sea. Split apart. Create an East Berlin, West Berlin for them. And I'm just picking a couple of places. I do not know militarily or in terms of terrain and possibilities or where the easiest or best place to do this is. I would tell you the best place is as close to Russia as possible. So number 1, if you can see that. Are we up to it yet? And the only reason I'm making these, I have a feeling and a strong one. You very aggressively right now. They're not thinking. Fear at this point. I do think they're aggressively. You got it up? Okay. I don't see it, but okay. Now, I don't know how well you can see that, but let's start at 1. Do you see where 1 is? 1 is right at, now, I think, so we'll get Ukraine. Luhansk, it's the Russian border. In the past, very pro-Russian. There's now, and so if we go a little further up north, we can see Kharkiv, my favorite city in Ukraine. Kharkiv was totally pro-Russian. It is now totally anti-Russian and has defeated Russia over and over and over again in both this war and the last one in their attempt to take it. And in doing so, has driven them back and left like a little open space there, and protected Sumy as well. So the yellow that you're looking at, maybe not all of it, certainly up to Sumy, but the original objectives, bare minimum objectives, the Russian Kharkiv and help tremendous amount of fighting has denied them that. Now, what about tonight? The second richest city in so move on to Belarus and Moldova and Romania and maybe even Poland. So, but minimum, get yourself a lynch to Crimea. Now, 4, I don't know why this was so important to them, because that gray area that you see there is Russia. That line that you see is the line between Russia and Crimea. And they have a bridge there. So they do have they have a bridge to Crimea, and they have land, their own land, that they can get to Crimea. So in a way, this is another one of Putin's propaganda stories. So he wants a land bridge to Russia. Also, what he wants is a good deal of Ukraine. And in some of these areas, like in Luhansk and Donetsk, there's a tremendous amount of mineral and a tremendous amount of rare soil that Russia doesn't have. So, you know, can't fool me. Bridge away. Get away. Number one, just take, don't quit there. Another 100,000 through. You're on it. You did it in Donetsk. Now, the second place to do it, the easiest, and I would say just as effective, is from Donetsk down to the sea, down to the Azov Sea. Now, and you could, I probably should have drawn that differently. You know, the darker area that you see is conceded to Russia from the last war. The area now, marked out in light yellow, the in dispute. That blast is marked out in yellow. They are missing the upper half of the blast that's marked out in yellow. Little bit. And then as you go further over, as you head to Kherson City, you can see there's this yellow, and that's disputed territory as well. So they only have about 60% of the Kherson Oblast. But what they do have is a straight marching position to get to Crimea. Ha, 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 ha. However, they can only get to Crimea by going over one of two bridges. One is located about where the 5 is, and the other is located over by where the end of the line is. Maybe a little further in, because that's a little bit too. So there are 3 bridges that get you on the island. One, let's rotate. One is right below that 4, where the line is. 5 is exactly where the second one is, and move over on the line, and that's where the third one is. One of the objectives in addition to cutting off the land bridge, either in Luhansk or in Donetsk or in Zaporizhia, or all three places, is to cut off those three bridges. Bomb them. It will completely destroy Crimea as a jewel for the animals in Moscow. And it has to be done this summer. And given the aggressive nature of the Ukrainians and the money they just got from the European Union and the money allocated, I imagine, but I think it has to go to the Senate. This is their time. If they go to the winter without maximizing these gains right now, it'll be a Russian, better chance of a Russian victory. If they can take advantage of the momentum they have right now to a bare minimum do two things: cut off an area that creates an end to the land bridge, pick any one of them, or a new one. And second, cut off the three actual bridges. And you might get Mr. Putin at the negotiating table. Because the other thing that's going on that nobody reports on because they bury it, particularly the pro-communist Western media, he is undergoing vast amounts of pressure for continuing this war, which they see no purpose in doing. You got what you got, give up a little of it to get most of it, and stop it. You're costing us a fortune. You're creating bad will. You've created enemy. I mean, Germany used to be a big ally. They don't trade with us anymore. I mean, what? Yes, Ukraine has lost territory. Not territory it had complete control over, by the way. This was always pro-Russian territory. Always voting against it. Not all, but a lot. So the loss to Ukraine in terms of dignity, sovereignty, rare earth and minerals there, yeah, wealth, it's there. Can't say they haven't taken a big hit. But they got most of their country. They've demonstrated an uncanny and difficult, an unbelievable ability to defend themselves. Nobody's going to attack them next time just thinking, oh, this is a real, we got no problem. I mean, Russia has lost bare minimum 400,000 troops. It's had 2 million casualties. I don't think Ukraine is dealing with any of that. And most of it is civilian because the Russians are terrorists and they were attacking civilians. Here's what the homicidal maniac is thinking about. He's thinking about getting through to the winter and then destroying them. His recruitment rates now are down to about 30,000 per month. That's what he loses per month in Ukraine. He's now taking people out of the prisons of Russia to fight. I mean, when did they start shooting each other? The winter campaign, he's going to target railroads and water infrastructure. He's going to try to create a humanitarian crisis, and he's going to see if he can finally make the gains there that he's always wanted. My answer to that is major offensive during the summer. You got the upper hand right now. Take advantage of it. What's going on in the UK before we get off for the second to last day of the week? Henry Nowak, I think you know that case. Henry Nowak is the young man who was, the film exists showing him attacked for, I don't know, some kind of dispute about a seat to watch a football game by Zikram Singh an illegal alien.
We played the video the other day.
And here's what happened. The police were called. The murderer or attempted murderer, Singh, told the police that Henry Nowak had attacked him. Henry Nowak was seriously bleeding out on the ground. How you didn't see that is remarkable. And the police, instead of administering first aid, administered deadly aid. Basically killed him, believing the illegal alien who have killed and raped and done all kinds of awful things to the English people since the labor left wing, similar to Biden's anti-Western civilization government, have let them in. Police body cam footage released earlier shows the December attack, and it shows that the police, as a racist response, believed the illegal alien over the British citizen. And you didn't have to believe anybody. You just had to look. You had to just look, and you see the guy bleeding. It doesn't matter if he's the victim or not. You got to save his life. But they figured no big problem. If this were a black guy, they'd have worked really hard because they've had a riot. You see what's happening in our so-called mother country? 48 hours after, in Belfast, Northern Ireland, a Sudanese illegal immigrant, an asylum seeker, another one, Hadid Oladid, brutally stabbed a man named Ogilvy in the middle of the street, and then attempted to behead him before he was stopped. We don't know why yet. This is going on in England all the time. I mean, they got about 15 years of around villages of along the coast, take them in sense, take place in the with like as a Muslim mayor forever now. And Starmer got really, really annoyed when Vice President Vance condemned Britain's handling of the Nowak murder, where they let the guy bleed out. Why don't you do something about it, Starmer, instead of getting upset with our vice president? Well, this is a very, very sad sign because it shows that the battle that we're engaged in, which is a matter of life and death for our civilization and our future, is much broader than just the United States, and it includes Western Europe. Don't know that it's as bad or anywhere near as bad in Eastern Europe. So I take the countries of Europe, and we're going to create like a dividing line and put them on each side of the line. But I take a country like Poland, and I take a country like Hungary, and I take a country like Estonia, and I'm honest with, and they're the war being made against Western civilization. And I take the big France. And I put on top of taken away or whatever the hell it is. I wouldn't, if Charles III became the first imam. I reported this last night. It disgusts me. 90% of children, 90% of mothers take the test to figure out if their kids have Down syndrome, kill them. We're not going to change the society until that changes. Until we reacquire God and the fact that life is in the hands of God, and that life is precious, and that our inconveniences don't mean anything in comparison to human life. So you're going to have a Downs baby. So you got to work harder as a parent. Whoever said that you were born with the exception that you didn't have to work hard? And whoever said you had the right to take that baby's life? That baby's not a threat to you. It's a threat to your convenience, to whether you have to work hard or be a lazy bum. You don't take life so that you can have like an easy life, which is what abortion's all about, right? That's what's got to be changed. God back into our world. Or a number of other plays. That it is really impossible, effective moral program in being. Now, did I truly impossible? Are there exceptions? Yes. But are they rare? Doubt to not believing in God. Just like you have but and you don't see the proof for the existence of God. Then God, because they need moral existence. They need the coherence that it creates. They need the rationale that it creates, and all the things that are much harder to build if you're particularly if you're an atheist, and it's all going to be over with. Why not do everything you want? You can build an ethical program without it, but it's much, much easier with an organizing presence. So, to my point of view, it's much more practical for a society that wants to be a good society to believe in God. I believe in God as a matter of faith, but I think the rest of you who don't, I think most of you do, by the way, but I mean, those who don't, do it as a matter of practicality. Okay. So let's pray for the president. We don't know really completely what's going on right now, like we haven't for a long time. This is a very interesting move. It's really going to probably test out whether we can really end this or not. This is about the most positive thing toward a settlement that we've seen. If it doesn't work, it's over. I mean, this then just becomes massive war. If it does work, and if we can get regime change out of it, then I'm not as upset about it. So let's see what happens. and we'll be right on top of it like nobody else is. Tomorrow on Lindell at 7, and tomorrow at 8 on America's Mayor Live. Pray for the people of Poland. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Pray for the people of Israel. Pray for us. And pray for Donald J. Trump, the guy who's guiding it all. He's doing a great job. But he's doing a great job because he has your help. Keep giving it to him. Thank you, God. And I didn't get a chance to do what I wanted to do. So we'll do it tomorrow night, which is to brag like hell about the New York Knicks making the biggest comeback ever in the history of basketball. And what a great team they are. And I'll do my prediction for the Saturday game tomorrow. And I'll show you not just who's going to win, but how. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk,